The auction hall was dark and crowded. Beings from every corner of the galaxy gathered, their eyes shining with greed. They came to buy slaves, fighters, and rare creatures. Loud voices filled the air, shouting numbers, making bids, one by one. The prizes were taken away, sold to the highest bidder. But then, the last cage was wheeled onto the platform. Inside it stood a girl, but she was not ordinary. She had silver skin that shimmered under the lights. Her hair was long and wild, like dark vines, and her eyes, glowing red, stared at the crowd with pure hatred. The auctioneer shouted, "The final prize!" A creature so wild, even her own kind chained her. The crowd whispered in fear. Stories had spread. She had killed her previous owners. No one dared to bid. The girl stood tall, even in chains. She didn't beg, didn't cry. She looked at them like they were the animals, not her. "She's untamable." The auctioneer warned, "No one has survived owning her." "Start the bid," he cried, but no hands rose. At the back of the hall, a human named Marcus watched quietly. Unlike the others, he didn't see a beast. He saw something else in her eyes. Strength, pain, pride. While others saw a monster, Marcus saw a prisoner. Minutes passed, and still no one bid. The auctioneer was sweating. Nervous. "If no one bids, we will dispose of her." He yelled. The crowd laughed, eager to see the creature destroyed. Then, a calm voice broke the noise. "I'll take her," Marcus said. Every head turned to look at the human. Some laughed, others whispered. "The human is mad." Marcus stepped forward, his eyes never leaving the girl. "1 credit," he offered. The auctioneer blinked. "1 credit? That's all?" "No one else wants her," Marcus said simply. "1 credit is fair." Silence filled the hall. No one challenged his bid. No one wanted. "The risk, sold," the auctioneer declared, desperate to end the sale. The crowd clapped mockingly, sure that Marcus would soon regret his choice. But Marcus didn't care. He approached the cage, and for a moment, their eyes met. The girl's eyes, burning red, stared deep into his soul. "Don't try to chain me," she hissed, her voice low but sharp. Marcus smiled lightly. "I won't." She watched him with suspicion, expecting tricks. But Marcus unlocked the cage and stood back. "Come out when you want," he said. The crowd gasped. No one expected that. To free a beast from the start? "Fool," someone whispered. "He'll be dead before morning." But Marcus didn't listen. He just waited. Patient and calm, slowly, carefully, the girl stepped out of the cage. Her movements were like a predator, ready to strike. She looked around, ready for traps. But there was nothing, just the human, standing still. "Why?" she asked coldly. "Why buy me if you fear me?" Marcus shrugged. "Because I don't see a beast, I see a person." Her eyes narrowed. "Confused. No one sees that." She spat. "I do," Marcus said quietly. Without another word, he turned and walked toward his ship. She followed, not because she trusted him, but because she was curious. No one had ever treated her like this. No chains, no orders, no fear. The auction hall whispered behind them. Bets were made on how long the human would live. Some said a day, some said an hour, but Marcus didn't care. He had made his choice. As they boarded the ship, the girl paused. She looked back at the hall, the place of her humiliation. Then she looked forward, at the unknown path ahead. Maybe this human was different. Or maybe he was just another fool. Either way, she would find out. And if he was lying, she would kill him, just like the others. But deep inside, a small voice whispered, what if this time things would be different? Asterisk, no one had ever walked beside her without fear, yet now, here she was, walking freely on a human's ship. No chains, no electric shocks, no guards. Just an open door, and a strange man who didn't look back to see if she followed. Her name was Threxia, though no one had called her that for years. To others, she was the beast, the monster, or the cursed one. But Marcus, he didn't call her anything yet. And that was strange. Why didn't he give her a name like the others? Did? Marcus showed her to a small room. It was plain, But there was a bed, water, and even clean clothes. "You can stay here," he said simply. She stood at the door, her glowing red eyes watching him. "What is this trick?" she asked sharply. "No trick." Marcus replied, "You're free to stay or leave." Then he turned and walked away, leaving her confused. Threxia stood there, her heart pounding. This was not normal. No one had ever given her a room. Usually it was a cell, dark and cold, but here, a room with a bed? She didn't trust it. She refused to sit or touch anything. Instead, she stood by the corner, ready to fight if needed. Hours passed. The ship hummed through space. Marcus didn't come back. No guards appeared. She was alone, truly alone. But hunger crept in. Her stomach growled, but she pushed the need away. She had survived worse. She wouldn't fall for a human's kindness. The next morning, the door slid open. Marcus entered with a tray of food, fresh bread, fruits, and water. Threxia glared. "I don't want your poison." "It's not poisoned," Marcus said calmly, placing the tray on a table. "Eat or don't. Your choice." Then he left again. She waited hours before even looking at the food. Her instincts screamed at her. Don't trust, don't eat. But hunger won, slowly. She took a bite. No poison, just food, real food, the kind she hadn't tasted since childhood. She devoured the meal quickly, then sat back, watching the door. Marcus didn't return that day. He left her space. And that made her even more suspicious. Why wasn't he controlling her? Why wasn't he afraid? She was stronger than 10 men, faster than any guard. She could rip his throat out in a blink, yet ... He left her free. The following days were the same. Marcus would bring food, sometimes a blanket. Once, he brought a book and left it by the door. He never asked her questions, never ordered her. He didn't even try to chain her. It bothered her. It made her restless. What was his game? One night, unable to sleep, Threxia wandered through the ship. She found Marcus in the control room, fixing a broken panel. He was focused, hands dirty with grease. She watched silently, hidden in the shadows. He wasn't strong, not like her. He was just ... A man, fragile, human. Suddenly, his voice broke the silence. "Are you going to stand there all night, or join me?" She froze, surprised he noticed her. "I'm watching," she replied coldly. "Good," Marcus smiled. "I could use company. No one had ever said that to her before." She stepped closer but kept her distance. "You're not afraid I'll kill you?" she asked. Marcus chuckled. "If you wanted to kill me, you would have by now." She frowned. "Why don't you chain me?" "I don't believe in chains," he said simply. "They make people into animals." "I'm not an animal," she growled. "I know," he said softly, looking at her. "I see that." No one had ever said that to her. Not once, not ever. Threxia stood in silence, her mind racing. She didn't understand this human. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel like a prisoner. She didn't feel like a weapon. She felt confused. And for her, that was worse than any chain. Still, she said nothing. She turned and walked back to her room. But her heart was not quiet. The human had seen something in her, and she didn't know what it was, but she wanted to find out. Freedom always tasted strange to those who never had it. For Threxia, it tasted like doubt. She could walk the corridors, eat food, sleep on a bed. Yet every corner of her mind whispered, "It's a trick." She watched Marcus from afar, fixing the ship, eating alone, talking to himself sometimes. He didn't chain her, didn't spy on her. But that made her restless, too restless. One night, while the engines hummed quietly, Threxia made her decision. If this was a trap, she would not wait for it to spring. She would escape. Even if it meant facing the cold of space, she would rather die free than live pretending. She knew the paths of the ship now, where the airlocks were, where the vents led. Her sharp senses mapped the ship like a predator studies a cage. When Marcus slept, or at least when she thought he did, she made her move, silent as a shadow. She slipped through the halls. Her bare feet made no sound. Her eyes glowed faintly, adjusting to the dark. She reached the cargo bay, where a secondary door could open to space. There was a control panel. Blinking gently, she approached, her fingers hovering over the buttons. Freedom was just one press away. Then she paused. Something was wrong. Her ears twitched, catching a faint sound. Footsteps, slow, steady, coming closer. She turned sharply. Marcus stood there, holding nothing but a mug of warm drink. He didn't look angry. He didn't even seem surprised. "I wondered when you'd try," Marcus said quietly, sipping his drink. Threxia growled. "Stay back, human." Marcus raised a hand, showing he carried no weapon. "I'm not here to stop you," he said. "If you want to go, go." Threxia narrowed her eyes. "Liar, no." Marcus replied, his voice calm. "Out there is space, cold and empty. You'll die before you reach any planet." She glanced back at the airlock, the panel waiting for her command, yet her hand trembled, not from fear, but confusion. "Why don't you stop me?" she hissed. Marcus shrugged. "Because I promised I wouldn't chain you." Threxia's mind raced. No one ever kept promises to her. No one ever let her choose. "You're playing with me," she accused. Marcus shook his head. "I'm not. I'm tired of people caging others. If you want to leave, I won't stop you, but I'd rather you stay, because you want to, not because you're trapped." Silence filled the cargo bay. The hum of the engine sounded like distant whispers. Threxia stared at Marcus, searching for a lie, but his eyes were steady, honest. "You're strange," she muttered. "I get that a lot." Marcus smiled lightly. She looked back at the panel again. Her freedom stood inches away, yet her feet wouldn't move. Why? Because for the first time, someone had given her a choice. She stepped away from the panel slowly, her red eyes never leaving Marcus. "I'm not staying because I trust you," she warned. "I wouldn't expect that," Marcus replied. "I'm staying because I want answers," she added. "And if you lie, I'll kill you," Marcus chuckled. "Fair deal." Then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there. For minutes, she stood still, the weight of her decision heavy in her chest. She could have opened that door, but her heart pulled her back. Not because she was weak, but because she was curious. And curiosity was stronger than fear. Back in her room, she sat on the bed for the first time. It was soft, warmer than she imagined. She stared at the ceiling, thinking, what kind of human was this? Why didn't he chain me? Why is he different? For years, her life was simple. Fight, escape, survive, kill now. Now there were choices, and choices were more terrifying than chains. She closed her eyes, but sleep did not come easily. Tomorrow she would demand answers. And if Marcus lied, she would finish what she started. Asterisk in space, days and nights meant nothing. But for Threxia, that morning felt different. For the first time, she woke up in a bed instead of on a cold floor, and that alone was unsettling. Comfort was a stranger she didn't know how to fight. She rose quietly, her sharp senses alert. She hadn't killed the human last night. She hadn't escaped either, and that meant something. Though she wasn't sure what, Threxia walked the corridors. Her bare feet light and cautious, she followed. The smell of food, another unfamiliar kindness. Soon, she found Marcus in the kitchen, cooking. The scent of eggs and bread filled the air. He looked up and smiled. Hungry? She didn't answer, only stared with suspicion. Marcus placed a plate on the table and said, "You can eat, no price, no tricks." She stepped closer, eyes sharp like knives. "Why are you doing this?" she asked coldly. Marcus sipped his coffee. "Because you need it. No one helps without reason." She snapped. "True," Marcus nodded. "I help because I want to." She sat slowly, keeping her eyes on him. "I'm not a pet," she warned. "I never said you were," he replied. They ate in silence for a while, but the questions burned inside her. Finally, she asked, "Why did you buy me at the auction?" Marcus looked thoughtful. "Because no one else would." "That's not an answer," she pressed. Marcus put his cup down and looked at her. "When I looked at you in that cage, I didn't see a monster. I saw someone trapped. I hate seeing people in chains." Threxia's hands clenched. She remembered the chains, the cages, the beatings. "Everyone thinks I'm dangerous," she muttered. "Are you?" Marcus asked simply. She met his gaze. "Yes, if I need to be." Marcus didn't flinch. "Good," he said. "Because dangerous people survive. But being dangerous doesn't mean you're evil." His words hung in the air. No one had ever said that to her, not even her own people. Long ago, she had family, friends, until they betrayed her, sold her like property. All because she was born stronger, wilder than the rest. "You speak too softly for someone who bought a beast," she said. Marcus chuckled. "Maybe, but I don't see a beast. I see someone who was never given a choice." That struck her deeper than she expected. Because it was true, all her life. No choices, just chains and pain. Now this human, strange and calm. He was offering her the one thing she didn't understand, freedom. But freedom was a fragile thing, easy to break, hard to believe in. "If you expect me to follow your orders, I won't," she said. "I don't expect that," Marcus smiled. "Then what do you want?" she asked sharply. Marcus leaned back, thinking. "I want you to decide who you want to be." She stared, confused. No one had asked her that before. No one cared who she wanted to be. She stood up, her eyes burning. "You're a fool," she hissed. "Maybe," Marcus smiled gently, "but sometimes fools change the world." She left the kitchen, her mind a storm. What kind of human was this? She had seen humans before. Greedy, cruel, scared. But Marcus? He was something else, and she didn't know if that made him dangerous or something worse. Kind. Back in her room, she paced restlessly. Her claws scraped the walls, her heart heavy. She had a choice now, to stay or leave, to trust or to kill. But the worst part was, she didn't want to leave. Trust was fragile. But for the first time in years, a small piece of her wanted to believe in it, and that was scarier than any chain. Space was silent, but that night, something disturbed the silence. A shadow in the void. It wasn't a star, nor a comet. It was a ship, cold, dark and hunting, and it was coming for them. Inside the human's ship, Threxia slept lightly. Her ears twitched as the hum of the engines changed. A distant alarm beeped once, then again. She opened her red eyes. Something was wrong. She shot up from bed, her muscles tense. Suddenly, the ship shook, a vibration deep and sharp. "We're not alone," she thought. She ran barefoot through the corridors. As she neared the control room, she saw Marcus, awake, alert, his hands moving fast over controls. "What is it?" she barked. Marcus didn't turn. "Pirates," he said flatly. "They've locked onto us." "How many?" she asked, her instincts burning. "Too many," he answered. "At least a dozen, maybe more." Another blast rocked the ship. "They're boarding," Marcus added, standing up. Grabbing a blaster from the wall, Threxia stared at him. She expected fear in his eyes, but there was only focus. "You're going to fight them?" she asked. "I have no choice," he replied. "If they board, they'll take everything, including you." She felt something strange in her chest, anger, not because she was in danger, but because he was. He who gave her freedom, who fed her, who never chained her. She snarled low. "You'll die with that toy," she mocked, eyeing his blaster. "Probably," Marcus smiled grimly. "Then step aside," she growled. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You want to fight them?" Threxia's eyes glowed, her claws extending. "I was born for it," she said coldly. The ship shook again. The pirates had landed. Metal boots clanged against the floors. Their voices echoed, speaking in ugly alien tongues. They were coming. Fast, armed and ready to kill. Marcus stood back, watching her. She crouched low, her muscles coiled like springs. Her wild hair hung around her face, her sharp teeth bared. For the first time since her capture, she was herself. A predator, unchained. The first pirate kicked the door open and didn't finish his scream. Threxia lunged, her claws slicing through armor like paper. Blood sprayed the walls. Before the others could react, she was already on them. She was a storm, moving too fast to track. Marcus watched, stunned, as she tore through the invaders. Their weapons fired, but she was faster. Jumping, rolling, shredding, her eyes glowing like twin suns. She didn't fight like a soldier. She fought like a force of nature. One by one, the pirates fell, their screams cut short, their weapons useless. Marcus tried to help, firing shots when he could, but it was clear she didn't need him. She was unstoppable, soon. The corridors were painted in red and silver blood. Only silence remained, broken by Threxia's heavy breathing. She stood over the last pirate's corpse, her body shaking, not from exhaustion, but from awakening. For the first time in years, she had fought without chains, without orders, and it felt right. Marcus approached carefully. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She turned, her eyes still burning, but slowly they softened. "I'm fine," she muttered, wiping blood from her face. "You didn't have to," Marcus said quietly. "I know," she replied, "but I did." There was no pride in her voice, only the strange weight of choice. "Thank you," Marcus said sincerely. She frowned. "Don't thank me yet. I did it because I wasn't ready to lose my answers." Marcus chuckled. "Fair enough." But deep inside, he knew she had protected him. They stood in the bloodied hallway, both breathing, both alive. But something between them had changed. A bond forged not by chains, but by battle. Threxia looked at her bloodied claws. For once, she didn't feel like a beast. She felt like a protector, and that was new, and dangerous, and good. Asterisk. The ship smelled of blood and smoke. But in the quiet after the storm, there was only breathing, the breathing of two survivors. One human, one alien, both stained with the proof of battle. Marcus sat in the control room, wiping sweat and blood from his face. Threxia stood near the viewport, staring at the endless stars. Her body was still, but her mind was far away. She wasn't thinking about the pirates. She was thinking about herself. She had killed before, many times. Too many to count, but this time, something felt different. This time, she fought for someone, not just to survive. And that feeling sat heavy in her chest. Marcus broke the silence. "You didn't have to protect me," he said softly. Threxia didn't turn. "I told you I need answers," she replied coldly. "But that's not the only reason," Marcus said. His voice wasn't accusing, just curious. Threxia closed her eyes, and then she said something she hadn't told anyone in years. "They called me a beast because they wanted to forget who I really was," she whispered. Marcus sat up straighter, listening closely. "I wasn't born in chains," she continued. "I was born a princess." Marcus blinked, confused. "A princess?" he repeated. Threxia nodded slowly. "My people ... We are a warrior race, but not all of us are monsters. I was born to the royal line of the planet Virexis." She spoke the name like a forgotten melody. "A place of strength, of pride, of honor." She added, "But when I was a child, they discovered I was different." "Different how?" Marcus asked. Threxia's voice darkened. "I was stronger, faster, fiercer than anyone. Even grown warriors feared me, and in my culture, anything too strong is dangerous. So they betrayed you," Marcus said quietly. She nodded. "My own family sold me. I was taken, chained, paraded across the stars as a prize. Each time I killed my captors, they chained me tighter, until I became the monster they said I was." Marcus felt a cold anger in his chest. How could anyone do that to a child? To their own blood? Rex is ... Marcus whispered, "Is that world still there?" Threxia shrugged. "I don't know. I stopped counting the years. I stopped caring." Marcus stood up, looking at her. "But you still remember," he said. Threxia's red eyes softened. "Memories are chains too," she muttered. "They hold tighter than metal." He walked closer, careful not to alarm her. "What if we went back?" Marcus asked. Threxia's eyes snapped to him, sharp and dangerous. "Why?" she spat. "So they can chain me again? Kill me?" Marcus shook his head. "No, to remind them who you are. You're not a beast, Threxia. You're their queen in waiting. Their shame. She stared, breathing hard. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever looked at her with anything but fear. But this human, he looked at her like she was whole, not broken. Why do you care? She asked bitterly. Because, Marcus said softly, everyone deserves to choose who they want to be, not what others force them to become. Silence settled between them again, but it was a warmer silence, not empty, full of unspoken things. Threxia turned back to the stars. I don't know if I can ever go back, she said. You don't have to decide now. Marcus smiled gently, but you don't have to run anymore either. She said nothing, but in her heart, something stirred. A thought, a hope. What if I went back? What if I showed them I survived? She wasn't sure if she wanted revenge or peace, but for the first time, she wanted something. And that was the beginning of everything. In the emptiness of space, stars seemed to whisper secrets to those who listened. Threxia stood before the ship's main window, staring at them. She wasn't sure if they were mocking her or calling her home. For the first time, the stars didn't feel like distant lights. They felt like paths she had never dared to follow, until now. Marcus entered the room quietly, holding 2 cups of warm tea. You don't sleep much, do you? He said with a faint smile. Threxia didn't look back. Sleep is for those who feel safe, she replied coldly. He handed her the cup anyway. She took it silently, letting the warmth seep into her cold hands. After a long pause, Marcus spoke. So ... what will you do now? Threxia stared deeper into space. I should want revenge, she admitted. I should want to burn Virexis to the ground, but I don't know if that's what I want, Marcus nodded. That's a choice only you can make. Threxia finally turned to face him. Why do you care so much? She asked, her voice sharper than intended. Because I see you, Marcus said softly. Not the beast. Not the weapon. Not the monster. I see you. His words made her chest ache. A pain she didn't know she had. No one had ever seen her as more than a tool or a threat. But Marcus, a simple human, looked at her like she was a person. She stepped closer, her red eyes watching his carefully. You're strange, she muttered. Everyone keeps telling me that, Marcus chuckled. She stood so close now that he could see the faint scars on her skin. Each scar told a story of pain, betrayal, and survival. But there was something else beneath them, a story unfinished. I don't know how to be anything else, she whispered. Marcus tilted his head. Then let's find out, he said. Together. Threxia blinked, surprised. Together? Yeah, Marcus smiled. You don't have to do this alone. We'll figure it out. Who you are, where you belong. If you want to go back to Virexis, I'll take you. If you want to run, I'll still fly beside you. She stared at him, confused. But grateful. No one had ever offered her a choice, let alone companionship. You're not scared I'll kill you in your sleep? She asked with a hint of mischief. I've seen you fight, Marcus grinned. If you wanted me dead, I'd already be floating in space. A low chuckle escaped her lips. It was rough, broken, like a sound she hadn't made in years. But it was laughter, real, alive in that moment. Threxia realized something. She wasn't chained to her past anymore. Not fully, because she had met someone who didn't see the chains. She looked at Marcus and said softly, Okay. We'll figure it out together. Marcus raised his cup in a mock toast. To new beginnings then. Threxia raised hers, awkward but willing. To new beginnings, she echoed. As they stood together, the stars no longer felt like distant strangers. They felt like a map to somewhere new. The beast was gone. The prisoner was gone. What remained was Threxia, warrior, survivor, and perhaps a friend for Marcus. He didn't just buy an alien at an auction. He gained a companion who might one day become his fiercest ally. Or maybe something more. But that was a story for another time. For now, they had stars to chase, and a galaxy that would soon learn the truth. The untamable girl was not a beast. She was becoming unstoppable.